Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable for Prof. Nenden, I would like to share my chapter report about material taken from James Dean Brown. The outline is about introduction, the second about framework for material design, the third about where do materials come from, the example material development project, summary, term, review, question. For introduction, teachers or lecturer necessary to create our material for our teaching process. Program designed by the need analysis, goals and objectives and tests. Curriculum developers are in excellent position to begin material development. Material will be defined here as a systemic description of the technique and exercise to be used in classroom teaching. It means that when material will be defined here as a systemic description, so the material have the stage in developing or the step to develop. Developing material will be discussed in terms on 3 phases. The first about developing, teaching, and the last about evaluating materials. Adapting material include all of the steps necessary in adopting. Sometimes incorporate pages that allow for analyzing what is worth keeping in material, and then classifying that remaining material, filling gap other source, and recognize all of this with the program in question. For the framework for material design, the first is about approach. The common use is about communicative approach as the basis for discussion as running example. Communicative approach is delivered to intermediate students or intermediate learner is about TOEFL test in contrasting skills speaking and writing. Curriculum developer will have a basis for beginning to make choice how to organize, present, and practice the language. It's about how that orientation will influence the choice that must be made in development and implementation of material that test the position that students to be able to express their intention and the meaning important in their life. Next is about syllabus. Syllabus as a logical step will be considered the syllabus that should be used to organize all other teaching activities. Teaching activities is a syllabus. It means that in syllabus we have a step or the teaching activities in our teaching process. The syllabus have the procedure involved in developing a syllabus include the first, examining instructional objective, the second, arranging them in terms of priority, the third, determining what kind of technique, and the fourth, exercise are required in order to attain those objectives. Here, number different of syllabus are commonly found in current EFL course and material. The first is about structural. Structural is meant that organized around grammatical structure. And then situational. Situational is meant around variant setting in which the learner likely. Topical is around theme or a topic. Functional is around communicative function, and national is about conceptual categorize. skill, listening for the gifts, and then writing for academic writing, something like that. And the last about task or activity based is around activities such as drawing a map, giving some direction, and etc. But in some case, many teachers use combination of syllables to apply in their teaching process. The running example of syllabus, especially in speaking and writing, but of is based on the communicative approach around the functional syllabus. Example, in writing course, the syllabus is ordered partially on the basis function. Example, for divining, comparing, paraphrase, and exemplifying, and partially around tasks for writing academic note or writing an academic letter. The next framework is about technique. How is the technique? The technique is a material developer must make decision for their activities in our classroom. The technique involves how much weight will be assigned to each activity type per lesson, and then what configuration teacher and learner will activities involve. Early in the process about the principal kind of activities and learning experience that program will use criteria that will be employed for selecting those activities and experiences. For example, running example of technique in speaking course that was listed in the syllabus and might include the following teaching activities. The first, review on the blackboard of the specific vocabularies. 2. Example videotapes showing a native speaker describing various commonly encountered objects. And the third, lecture on the exponent for grammatical form or the pace. The last framework is about exercise. How necessary exercise in our material development, or the exercise as the category of teaching activities called exercise must be considered. Set of activities as a way of having the student practice the language point they have been present. Material developer must make early decision about principal kinds of exercise that will be most appropriate for the program in equation. For example, in speaking course, the teacher might want to get up practice opportunities for conventional interaction and draw on some all of the exercise. The first, dialogue work, teacher-student interaction, peer feedback session, peer work, and free conversation. Is the fifth activities or tasks developed for design tasks teaching in our teaching process. For example, for dialogue work, and then teacher and student interaction, peer feedback session, peer work, or free conversation. Next is about material blueprint. Material blueprint, an effective blueprint or material development must include some form of evaluation component. 3 element more detailed information as follow. The first, unit of analysis. 2. Scope and sequence charts. And the third, Gantt diagram. Will be useful tool in material development project. Okay, Where do material come from? The first, adopting materials, and then deciding types of material, locating material, evaluating materials, and ongoing review of material. Uh, we have to adopting material and then deciding types of material is based on when we decide to make material of the integrated skill in listening, speaking, reading, or writing, and then locating the material. We have 16 meeting in semester, and we should locating our material for the first meeting or the second meeting or the third meeting, and then after the material delivered for our students, the evaluating material is the step to uh, making decision for the next chapter or the next material. And the last, ongoing review of material. I think before we decide, before we giving our material for our student, we have going to review of material for the, where is it, the expert of this material, or based on the theories, or based on our handbook, based on our textbook, something like that. Okay, for the last is about developing material. Developing material here, we have to develop our materials based on our insight, based on our creativity, based on uh, our interest for this material. For example, to explore the materials in one skill, such as listening, such as writing, such as reading, or such as the other material about grammatical, about vocab. We have to develop the material based on uh, the necessary or need analysis of our student, and based on the goals or objective of our lesson. And the last, about adapting material. For adapting materials, I think uh, after we develop the material, we will adapting the material for the next step. For example, after we developing the material and then adapting the material, here are the example material of development project. For example, Guangzhou English Language Center, Zhouhan University, and English Language Institute of Hawaii at Manoa. I think enough. That's all for my presentation. Thank you very much for attention. I'm so sorry if any mistakes. See you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.